And hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast, the only video game show. So today I'm joined by Greg, and we're going to be talking about the very actually coming out really soon game, Chicory, A Colorful Tale.
Woo!
Yeah, so why don't we start with you introducing yourself to all -7 of my viewers?
Well, I'm Greg. I make video games, indie games specifically. Been making games for a long, long time. I think it's really fun to do. That's
Okay.
it.
And when did you first discover video games?
I think my first video game was like a Game Boy Pocket when I was like a pretty young kid. Actually, yeah, my mom won like a free Game Boy and like in a magazine like contest thing that she didn't even remember she entered. They just like something she subscribed to just like mailed her a Game Boy basically. And up until then we had never had any like I'd never had any concept of like video game stuff. But then yeah, this basically the thing just basically arrived from nowhere and changed my life forever. Uh yeah, and pretty much since then I was obsessed with them. I really liked making like board games and card games when I was like a kid, like with paper and markers and scissors and stuff. And then once I learned how to use computers, I started using those to make games too. So it really was feels pretty close to like a lifelong passion. It's just like as natural as breathing to me. I just really like doing it.
Okay, and what was your favorite game or games growing up?
Uh, mm, sh- Man, I really liked Tetris and Mario, but probably my first like favorite like lifelong game that I got into was probably Pokemon
Mm-hmm.
like Blue. When I was a kid, that one like yeah, that was probably the point of no return for me. Um, yeah, I love those games a lot. And yeah, like Zelda. I got like a Nintendo 64, so like Ocarina of Time and stuff I grew up with, and yeah, Smash Bros, that kind of stuff. Yeah, but Pokemon Blue is probably the one I would say is like the first like big favorite game.
Okay, and what would you say is your favorite game or games now?
Hmm. I still think Pokemon is really cool. Although yeah, like yeah, up and down about how like recent games have been. Like I mean, yeah, I guess the games I play like change up pretty often. Like most recently, I was playing Pokemon Snap.
Mm-hmm.
That game rules. Actually, I guess that's still Pokemon. It feels pretty different though. But yeah, like yeah, I don't know. Yeah, like how to answer. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that better.
Okay, so if the world wasn't still going through a literal and figurative plague, and things like
Mhm.
pets were still possible, and someone like walked by the like hypothetical chicory booth, what would be like the elevator pitch you or someone else there would give them?
So Chicory is a coloring book adventure game. It's basically like a Zelda game in a coloring book world. It's in a black and white place, land, with a magical brush that has the power to color things in.
Mm-hmm.
And the brush is wielded by this legendary artist named Chicory, who's like super famous celebrity, super talented, everyone loves her, etc. Um, but at the beginning of the game, Chicory disappears, and all the color in the world disappears with her. So you play as Chicory's janitor slash number one fan who takes up her brush in her absence to fill the world back in and try to figure out what happened to her. That's the
Okay.
gist.
Eh, yeah, so what made you decide to make the main protagonist a dog?
Uh, I really went to work with Alexis, who does all the character designs and animations, because she just does really, really cool animal characters and stuff. So I think from early on, like I kind of knew that it was going to be a world full of animal characters. Um, but yeah, when the game started out, it was just kind of a prototype of like a character walking around drawing on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And just based on how that little prototype felt, it seemed like a dog just made the most sense to me for what that character would be because I don't know, there's something very dog-like about that energy of just walking around, splashing color on things and drawing and I don't know, yeah. It felt right.
Okay. And like, what type of gameplay will the game be once it's out for the world to see?
So the basic gist, like if you're familiar with games, it's like a top-down Zelda game, but you can draw anywhere on the screen on anything, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff kind of reacts to your paint. So one early example are these like giant flowers, and you can walk on top of them. If you color them in, they shrink down. So if you're kind of like on the lower ground and you shrink down the flowers, you can walk through them to get to places. They like will block you when they're tall. When you erase them, they get really tall, and you can walk on top of them, so they're kind of like a bridge to get to places. That probably wasn't a great explanation. Later on there's like giant bugs that like eat paint, and so you can like stand on top of them and paint, and they'll like walk around and carry you around to different places by eating like trails of paint that you leave for them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, basically lots of stuff in the game works like that. Like stuff interacts with your paint in different ways. So there's puzzles to solve. There's kind of like surprising and scary kind of action sequences, like boss fights kind of as well. But then, yeah, as you go, like you'll get new abilities, kind of paint abilities that let you get to new places, and those new places will let you get to new paint abilities and stuff. And that's kind of mixed in with like visiting towns and talking to characters and helping them with their little problems. Like someone wants you to color their house back in, or someone wants you to draw a piece of art for the art school, or whatever like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, where would you say, where did the idea of it come from? Like, what was the moment where, like the thought
The
that would eventually become the full title, like, spring up from?
so before this game, I made a game called Wander Song, which was like a musical adventure game where you could run around and make music all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess from that, I just sort of wondered, like, could you make a game where you could wander around and draw all the time? Like, what would that kind of game be? Because I hadn't seen a game quite like that before, where, like, there's games that have had drawing in them, but what I was curious about was a game where drawing was like your main way to interact with stuff, and it was about like drawing, like being creative and making up drawings and pictures and coloring things in and stuff. That's kind of where I started from. And I spent a long time kind of playing with different ideas and testing out just like formats and structures for a game that could use that because it was pretty tough to find just the right balance where like you felt like you could be creative, but there also was still kind of fun stuff to do and challenges to solve and that kind of thing. So that's kind of basically how it started, was trying to solve that problem or wondering if that was even possible because I wasn't sure if it was possible. Um, I just was wondering if I could do it, and then it turned out I could, and I did.
Okay. And let's see. Yeah. So, how long did like the total development time from idea to finished product will it have taken when it officially releases?
From like very first idea to like next week when it comes out or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I guess like just like probably two and three quarters of a year, like or maybe 2.5 years, closer to closer to two and three quarters of a year, I think. Yeah, ish. So yeah, by the time it comes out, yeah, yeah. That's about the measurement. I would probably usually just say 2.5 years because that first like couple of months or so where I was just trying out ideas like wasn't didn't really feel like working on the game yet. I felt like kind of trying to figure out what the game was that I was going to work on.
Okay. And like during the game's development time, did you ever reach any difficulties on like how to make like this color interact with this thing in the game in this specific way?
Uh, there were more abstract than that. I want to say like we don't do stuff where like so colors aren't used for puzzle solving,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't really matter what color you use to color stuff in. We did that because we didn't want colorblind players to feel left out. Um, and because it's just not fun. Like it just feels weird when it's like, oh, I have to make this thing pink instead of purple, and that makes it to do this thing instead of that thing. Like it almost never makes sense. So yeah, we just didn't do that kind of stuff. But more broadly speaking, like yeah, there was I definitely put a kind of a challenge on myself to try to make all of the different puzzles and interactions feel as open-ended and like creative as possible. So even when you're solving a puzzle, like I wanted all the things you interact with to feel kind of like toys that you could play with and push around and do different things with that aren't necessarily intended.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was kind of tricky. just trying to like find the right ideas. But like I'm glad that I did that because it helped me kind of keep the scope down and like narrow the game down to the ideas that I think were the coolest and most interesting. So yeah, but yeah, like in one sense, like a million things like that all the time. Always lots of little challenges, things to figure out. But that's what makes making games really fun as well to me.
Okay. And like when it's out, when like on what platforms can like any potentially interested people go to buy like one or five copies of it?
It'll be on Steam. It'll be on itch.io. I think it's gonna be on Epic as well, and it'll be on PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. So yeah, for PC, Mac, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, those platforms.
Okay. Let's see. Um. Uh. Yeah. I'm seeing on the website that there's some parts where you can customize your character. Will you be able to like give your character its their own unique look depending like could someone just like draw a new thing and then stick it on and they could like go about the game?
Yeah, there are things like that. Yeah, but the primary, I mean, yeah, you collect clothes, so kind of whenever you're doing secrets or finding hidden stuff, you find like new clothes that you can wear. So that's kind of one of the main ways. And you can also change the colors in your character, and yeah, there's like other secret stuff as well that you can do later that I'm not going to spoil. But yeah, it's kind of like what you're describing is probably possible.
Okay. And you mentioned secret like I was like looking for secrets like without giving anything specific away. Is looking for secrets gonna be like a big part? Like obviously it's gonna have a straightforward. It's gonna have like just a regular like do the thing story, but are like looking for secrets also gonna be like a big part of what hooks players onto it?
I think so. Yeah, this the game is like just full of stuff to find and collect and uncover. So if you're really into kind of like finding hidden things and like, just pushing a little bit farther in that one direction or checking out that one thing a little bit closer, like you're gonna find lots of stuff and have a good time with it. So yeah, there's that. And then we also like made sure to put in lots of ways for players to find stuff that they missed. So like we didn't want, yeah, trying to have the right balance where it's not super frustrating if you want to collect everything and you don't, yeah, want to think about it too hard. But if you're really interested in solving lots of puzzles, like they're all there for you as well.
Okay.
Mm.
Um. Yeah. So like again, without giving anything away, just as someone who's like perpetually bad at like, just like any sort of puzzle in video games, like what if you had to give like a rough ballpark estimate as to like how like tough the puzzles in the game like will be to like the average like person who buys them, like how would you like describe them?
We didn't go super crazy with anything. It's more about how much stuff there is. No specific thing is like designed to be like crazy hard. In fact, we really want people to be able to figure it out. So we focus on accessibility. But there's a hint system in the game. So anytime you're stuck, you can go to a phone booth and call your parents, and they'll actually like give you reminders on what you're supposed to be doing right now, or even sometimes give you like a really specific walkthrough on how to like solve puzzles and stuff. And so yeah, like it's actually pretty like I don't think anyone yeah, the intention is that no one will get stuck in this game basically. Like even if you can't if you're super like if you are stuck and you can't figure out what to do, like there's ways to figure there's hints in the game to kind of get you through it. So we're hoping that basically anyone can get through it no matter where you kind of are with this stuff.
Okay. And yeah, if people would be interested in not just, buying this game, but keeping like up to date with all of the news related to this game, where could a person like follow or find it?
Well, we're at Chicory on Twitter, and then we have a newsletter or mailing list. So the links for that are on our Twitter and also on our website at chicorygame.com.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, like yeah, if you're on a newsletter, then you'll have the best chance of like getting all of our news. But Twitter's also a good way to follow us.
Okay. And yeah, I guess it's time for the final question of the interview that I always ask, that no one ever struggles with. Greg, in your opinion, is video games?
Yes, yes.
All right. And there you have it. And we that brings us to the conclusion of this particular episode of the Pumpkin Copter Cast. I would like to thank Greg for joining me and saying some words about this adorable dog artist game. And yeah, if you're interested in it, like he said, it's gonna come on Steam, itch.io, PS4, PS5. So if you have one or all of those things I just said, keep an eye out for around a week from now, where you can get it and play it.
Yeah,
And yeah, if you enjoyed listening to my words and you want to hear more of them, you can like and subscribe and hit the bell so you get announcements whenever I post a new thing, because everyone loves extra steps. And, after you give the Chicory team all of your hard earned money and you want to give me some of the money you didn't give to them already, you can go to patreon.com/the pumpkincoptercast and give as much or as little as you want. And yeah, I've been Tyler, and as I say at the end of every show, have a gourd day, everyone.